Hello, BookTube. I have a tag for you today, and it's directly connected to NaNoWriMo, which is ongoing. This is day 14. We're halfway done with National Novel Writing Month, in which tens of thousands of people all over the world dedicate themselves to the crazy goal of writing a novel in the month of November. 50,000 words, 1,667 words a day, to get to 50,000 words by the end of the month. The halfway point is a big deal. Those of you who are doing this and who have actually made your word count for this long should be immensely proud. Those of you who are doing this every day and haven't made your word count but have still been writing, making yourself sit down and write every day, should also be immensely proud. It's an incredible accomplishment, and you'll feel that more as time goes on. You might feel, if you're behind your word count especially, you might feel miserable right about now, but you shouldn't. You're doing something now every day that in the past you told yourself you would do, but didn't do. And that's big. That means a lot. So the tag involves a new splinter group on YouTube, one of the newest splinter groups on YouTube, AuthorTube, which is dedicated to booktubers or non-booktubers, anybody who writes. The organizational principle is writing rather than reading, as on BookTube. Although, as everybody that I've read, all the videos that I've seen on AuthorTube point out, the two are inextricable. So there's no Westeros-style fighting. But apparently this tag was made by Jenna the Dark One, whose channel I did not know about. Now I do, and I'm very happy for it. And I was tagged by Ben Sanders. And question number one is, how did you find out about AuthorTube? And I found out about it through Ben's tag. I didn't know that it existed. My original idea was RightTube. I originally had this idea to do, well, I'm not sure I didn't have the original idea of it, but I originally thought, wouldn't it be nice if it was called RightTube? AuthorTube seems to me, Cam at Wolfshop Publishing actually pointed this out when he did this tag himself, that AuthorTube maybe draws an unintended bit of attention towards this publication status, as opposed to the activity of writing, because, informally, but traditionally authors are published and writers are not. that all authors are writers, but not all writers are authors, that sort of thing. But it doesn't matter. I found out about it through Ben's tab, and I'm very glad I did. I actually want this to happen. Question number two: what genres do you write in? And this is where my participation in AuthorTube gets a little problematic. It's not problematic, but a little different than the run, I think. The main genre that I write in is nonfiction. It's literary criticism. It's book reviewing. It's what I do all day long. It's what I do all the time. But I also regularly in my life have written fiction. So I guess that counts. And the type of fiction that I have most regularly written has been historical fiction, with a lot of science fiction and fantasy thrown in, but mostly historical fiction. Although not at the moment. At the moment, for NaNoWriMo, I am writing contemporary fiction. Buses, subway passes, cell phones, the works. Question number three: what is your preferred writing tense, point of view, and story category? And I couldn't resist casting my answer exactly as this. In the present, I am omniscient. Question number four: are you a plotter, pantser, or plantser? And the terminology here, if you're not familiar, are plotters are people who plot what they're going to do and then ahead of time and then write it. Pantser stands for seat of the pants and means you just sit down and go with the flow. You don't plot anything. And plantser is a new term that is a combination of the two. And the more I've thought about this, especially with this year's NaNoWriMo, the more I've realized that almost every writer in the world is a plantser, which A, means that we need to come up with a better word for it, because I'm bloody well not going to call myself a plantser for the rest of my life. And B, it's grounds for very interesting discussion about what the mechanics of writing actually is. Of course, the more I think about it, the more I think the number of people who sit down and actually pants, not having any idea what they're going to write, is very small. I think before you get to it, when you're working up to your computer, when you're walking towards it, when you're working your way through your day with classes and food and conversation, I think there's a greater and greater part of your brain that is readying itself to write, and that readying is plotting. But that's probably something for another video. Question number 5. Are you self-published, traditionally published, or yet to be published? I'm all over the map on this one. If by traditionally published we mean that some editor has approved my work and paid me for it in order to present that work in a printed form for a large audience, then I am conventionally published all the time. I'm a deadline book critic. I write for all kinds of venues, some online, some in print, and frequently. But I also am the managing editor and a frequent contributor to an online-only literary journal called Open Letters Monthly. There's a lot of my work there, and although we're more collegial than we are editorial amongst ourselves, amongst the actual people on the masthead, so it's not like I'm submitting pitching pieces to my colleagues at Open Letters and hoping that they take one. There's a much greater degree of autonomy there, so that's kind of in the middle. And then I have a book blog, also located on Open Letters, but free of any editorial control, called Steve Reads, and that also I've been doing for 10 years. So it's I'm a little all over the place here. Question number 6: what publishing company or agent represents you, or do you want to? I don't have an agent. I have no book deals, nothing like that. I sometimes dream about it, of course. I sometimes dream about maybe revamping some of my reviews into an actual collection of expanded book reviews, like the ones I have on the shelves here in the room. I have dozens of them, and they make good reading for me. It's a small readership, but I bet there'd be people out there. I've often thought, like, for instance, I write for a newspaper in Abu Dhabi, the other side of the world, and I've often thought about a collection. I've been doing it for years for them, and they're long pieces, and they're not totally dependent on the book that I'm reviewing. They're often discussions of the subject rather than reviews of the book. In other words, they would travel well into an anthology. I've often thought of an anthology called The News from Abu Dhabi, or something like that. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if HarperCollins or Norton would publish such a thing? But the more I think about it, the more I think I'd want to self-publish it. Make it look the way I want and do all of it myself. And maybe AuthorTube will be a way to help me do that. We shall see. I'll get back to that in a later question. But even if I did that, I wouldn't want to only do that. I think I would miss the daily scramble, the ad hoc nature of getting a deadline, learning about a book, trying it out, writing quickly, having it ready for an editor, that sort of thing. I think I would miss that. So it wouldn't be only book contracts. It's not an end goal for me the way it is for a lot of writers, I think. Question number 7. What AuthorTube related videos can we expect to find on your channel? Well, I don't really know. AuthorTube is brand new. I mean, what do we do? Do we do writing updates? Do we do coaching videos? Will I be writing fiction after NaNoWriMo? And will AuthorTube be the reason why? I can't wait to find out. I can't wait to spitball ideas with everyone else who's involved in AuthorTube and find out what kind of videos I can do. Certainly not making a separate channel. That's for sure. I will simply label my videos AuthorTube videos on this channel. Let's see here. Question number 8. When did you start writing? If we're talking about nonfiction, about deadline reviews of books, it was a very, very long time ago. If we're talking fiction, it was a slightly less long time ago. It's still a long time ago. Question number 9. What was the first story you ever wrote? They were science fiction potboilers. And I wrote them chapter by chapter and disseminated them to a small private audience. And every chapter ended with a cliffhanger. And I got really good at cliffhangers because I had all that practice. I did that probably for years. And there maybe, I doubt that any of you that read those stories are watching these videos, but there are people out there still alive who can attest that I got pretty good at cliffhangers. Those things were pretty enjoyable. Question number 10. What authors have inspired your writing the most? In fiction, I jotted down some names here: Kay Boyle, Frank O'Connor, Mary Lavin, John O'Hara, Elizabeth Bowen. Uh, Meat and potatoes, working everyday stylists. Nothing artsy fartsy, but really shiveryly good, just really good writers. Unfortunately, now mostly all forgotten, but it doesn't matter. They shaped me. And as far as nonfiction goes, well, there's William Dean Howells. Most of you won't know his name, and those of you who do will know him from a novel, The Rise of Silas Lapham. But he actually was instrumental in the American literary scene for a very long time, and most of his best stuff is his nonfiction, and I love it. But there's also Mary McCarthy, and ditto for her. I love her novels. I might be the only person left alive who does, but I love her nonfiction a lot more, and I'm very happy to report, after a great deal of lobbying on a lot of people's part, that next year the Library of America will be doing not only a 2-volume collection of her fiction, but a 2-volume collection of her nonfiction in beautiful box sets. A tribute that's just wonderful. Makes me very happy. Also, V.S. Pritchett for his nonfiction, not his fiction. And most of all, the goddess of our idolatry, Virginia Woolf, who I've mentioned on this channel before, not just for fiction, but also for her book criticism, which she did better than anyone. But anyway, question number 11. Do you schedule writing time, or do you get to it whenever you find the time? A little bit of an awkward question, since what you're looking at right now, Steve, propped up on pillows in bed in his little book room, sleeping dogs on the bed, surrounded by books, with a stack or two of vital stuff, of stuff that's actually current now, being worked on in one way or another. That is my time. This is not at the end of a day that's done in other places and spent doing other things. This is what I do. So I don't schedule time. No, it's all my time. I get up, I take the girls outside, I bring them in, I make sure they're okay, I settle them down, I give them a little food, and then I have a window of 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours, maybe 3 hours if they're feeling really good, to write. So I look at what I need to get done that day. Do I have a review due that day? Do I have 2 reviews that day? Okay, which is shorter. Do I have a stack of emails that I have to do, that I want to do, but also have to do? Can't let these things sit. Do I have edits that I need to put on something? Do I need to read something crucial, as apart from my nighttime reading? All that sort of thing. That starts as soon as the sun comes up. The writing day starts as soon as the sun comes up, but it goes all day long, so there's no real time, no. Question number 12. Do you type on a computer, typewriter, by hand, or some combination? And where do you do it? I type on a computer because any writing that isn't practice is meant to be shared, either with friends or fellow writers, so that they can read what you're doing and you can read what they're doing, or for an editor who's going to work on it with you, or for an audience that's going to respond to it. Anything that isn't that is practice. And if you're going to share writing, then you should take advantage of miracle technology in the 21st century that is totally transitive. If you write something on a computer or a tablet or even a cell phone, that writing is made to be shared. Sharing has never been easier to do than that. And writers forever yearned for such transitive properties in writing, and didn't have them. Didn't have them at all. You used, in the bad old days, you used to have carbon copy pages, and you had to type onto them, and you made 3 messy copies, and the copies underneath the top one were flimsy and often smudged, and if they smudged and it was important, you had to do it all over again. And no, I use electronic means for anything that I'm going to share. I write by hand in my journal. And in my journal, I don't just write by hand. I write in block capital letters, because otherwise I literally can't read what I'm writing. And as far as where goes, I read, as I do everything else, propped up on pillows in bed, the way God intended. uh, uh, let's see here. Question number 13. But for question number 12, I should point out something that I may not have made clear on this channel before, and some of you it'll strike you as a little strange. My favorite way of writing, by far, and it's a surprise to me too, but my favorite way of writing by far is on a flat tablet. I don't know why. I learned how to type on a manual typewriter. This should be off-puttingly alien to me, but I love it. I just love it. I don't know why, but I thought I'd add that on here. But anyway, where are we here? Question number 13. What are you most looking forward to now that you're a part of AuthorTube? Well, I don't know. That's the question of a new group. What will AuthorTube do? There's a Facebook page. Should I join it? I will look into it and see what it is, but what will we do? Will we share excerpts? Will we encourage each other on? Share tips? I'm curious to know. I will look forward to. I'll ask around. I'll watch all the other AuthorTube videos and see what happens. Maybe these discussions will happen on the Facebook page, and also we could create a journal of our work and our thoughts and our posts and whatnot, excerpts, short works. Wouldn't be a bad idea. Might be fun. But anyway, the answer to the question, of course, is I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. AuthorTube is weeks old. But that's it. That is my AuthorTube tag. And I wholly encourage any of you out there who write. I mean, I've been talking to you anyway with my NaNoWriMo videos, and this is kind of the same thing. This is NaNoWriMo comes home to BookTube. So if you write, consider joining AuthorTube. Consider being that as well as a booktuber. Just a small split of identity, and it could be a lot of fun. And if you do feel that way, make a video. Make an AuthorTube Newbie Tag. I tag you. I don't know who you are, but I tag you, definitely. And that's it for AuthorTube. Thank you, BookTube.